Jennifer, thanks for joining us today. Could you start off by telling us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I am a registered nurse with Albany Diabetes Education Clinic. So I've been here about 5 years seeing a variety of patients. I also do foot care, so that's an important part to think about on your trip. So I'm glad to be talking about this with hopefully more travel this summer and understanding, though, exactly what we need to do to get through safely.
It sounds like you have a lot of valuable experience, which is perfect because I have some questions I'd like to ask you today about how to travel safely with diabetes. After all, it's been a tough year for everyone, and I know a lot of us are looking forward to traveling again as we head into summer. So, to get started, what are some important considerations for traveling with diabetes?
I would say the most important thing is preparation. And whenever you start to pack or plan your trip, I always start with what is the most important thing I need to have prepared and packed, and what can I not replace once I'm at my destination. And what comes to mind obviously would be medications and any supplies that I'm going to need. So with diabetes, then starting with that process of what do I need to get prepared.
That's really good advice. So, do you recommend checking in with someone before you take your trip?
Well, I think checking in with your doctor is always a good idea. Letting your doctor know where you're going to go, how long you're going to be gone, and what recommendations from your doctor in terms of any vaccines or dose changes for medications before you go. Another thing that would be a good idea when you're seeing your doctor is to have the doctor state a letter or something that indicates that you have diabetes and that you do need the supplies, and get an updated prescription list and supply list.
So it sounds like a list would be really important to have. Are there any other resources that you would recommend getting or creating that can help you better manage your diabetes while traveling?
Well, I think an important thing to keep in mind is COVID and what are the restrictions, and we know that those are changing all the time. And the CDC has a great traveler's health site that would give some updates, and going through the airport security, the TSA has a website and some ideas there. And if you're driving, planning out your route and finding out what do I need along the way. For example, healthy restaurants and rest stops.
Thanks for sharing all those helpful resources with us. So let's shift the conversation a little bit and talk more about medications. I'm thinking that there are some important considerations for safe access and storage. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, that's a very good question. Just like at home, some medications need to be kept in the refrigerator. So knowing if you need to pack a cooler for medications that need to be kept cool. And I can talk a little bit more about that with safe flying. It's good to have all of the medications and supplies in one place. So almost a separate hand carry item to make sure you have them. You will also want to plan on bringing probably twice the amount of medications and supplies that you think you will need, just in case there are delays. And again, just making sure that you have everything and possibly a list of wherever you're going if you need to get extra supplies. And remember that heat and direct sunlight can impact your medications, so you don't want to leave them in a hot car in direct sunlight. This goes not only for medications but test strips as well, and also avoid areas that are going to be too cold.
Thanks for sharing those. That's really important to keep those things in mind. So, now let's talk a little bit about food, since we know that food is a pretty big part of diabetes. I'm wondering if you could share some recommendations for snacks or meal planning while traveling.
The main thing you want to consider when traveling is to have adequate carbs with you and to plan out your meals to try to keep to a routine. We want to avoid low blood sugar, and so you can definitely pack what you need if you have low blood sugar, and that would include maybe glucose tablets, some type of small container of juice, some raisins, and then along the way, knowing where can I stop for healthy options. So packing that and trying to keep to a routine, including that in your plan. And don't forget, keeping hydrated is really important. And don't forget that going through the TSA checkpoint, you cannot bring water bottles or liquid that in that sense. So plan to get that as soon as you get through security, and bring extra water when you're traveling in the car.
Thanks for sharing those tips about meal planning and thinking about your food ahead of time before traveling. So, another big piece along with food while traveling is that it entails a lot of sitting. So, what do you recommend to get moving?
Well, I think stopping the car, or if you're on the plane, you're making a plan to walk every couple hours, every hour. That's going to just keep the blood flowing, and it feels good to get up and stretch and keep from getting too stiff. Think about where are the rest stops, and do I have any layovers between flights? Those are opportunities to take walks.
All right, so another piece of traveling when you're flying is going through security, and I know that can be a concern for a lot of people. So I'm wondering, what are some important considerations when you have diabetes and you're going through TSA?
The biggest thing to help you get through the security is to have everything prepared, labeled, and in the right containers. And the TSA has a great website that will keep you up to date. It's at tsa.gov, and actually going into a travel and special considerations section. Definitely make sure all your supplies are with you to go on the plane. So I wouldn't check any supplies or medications in your checked-in baggage. Oh, some good news. People with diabetes are exempt from the 3.4-ounce liquid rule for medicines, fast-acting carbs like juice and gel packs to keep insulin cool.
Awesome. Do you have any tips or considerations for going through the x-ray machine at TSA?
Medications and insulin can go safely through X-ray. You do not need to disconnect your insulin pump or continuous glucose monitor, because items such as CGMs and pumps can be damaged by an X-ray machine. You have the right to refuse going through the X-ray machine. The best thing is to ask for a separate hand inspection and monitoring, and you can bring someone with you and they will do that off to the side.
All right, so we've talked about a lot today. I'm wondering if we could just do a quick review of the important points that we've discussed.
Well, definitely starting with your doctor to make sure you have everything up to date, prepared, and documented. And then packing your supplies that you're going to need, your medications, label those. And again, what do you need as far as your supplies? Your insulin pump, extra infusion sites, extra tubing. You're going to want your glucometer, your blood glucose meter with its supplies, with plenty of strips and lancets. And don't forget the food aspect of it, planning your meals, where you're going to go, and making healthy choices like you would at home. And definitely making sure that you have some snacks or treatment for potential lows that you might have. You definitely want to have a list of fast-acting glucose with you and packed appropriately. And another thing to remember is that you're going to have some sharps with you. You're going to be doing your injections, so there will be some needles, and you're actually allowed to bring the syringe, unused syringe supplies with you. And after you're done using those, if you have a sharps disposal container or a similar hard surface disposal container to store the used syringes. So keep that in mind. If you have any other emergency supplies that you might need with a glucagon emergency kit or urine ketone strips. So again, all of these supplies, medications should be all kept together.
These have all been fantastic tips to help people to feel as prepared as possible for traveling. Thank you so much for providing all of your expertise today. So now that we're ready to take a trip, Jennifer, where do you want to travel to next?
Well, after being in Oregon for over a year now, I am pretty excited about planning a trip to a tropical destination.
That sounds like a blast. I would love to be somewhere tropical right now. But in the meantime, where can people find you if they have any additional questions about today's topic?
Oh, well, that's a good question. So while I am doing my packing and planning, I will be here at the Albany Diabetes Education Clinic. Our number to reach us is at 541-812-4839. And anybody here can help with these questions if I'm already gone. Thanks for having me today. This has been fun.